invite my colleague Ilse, to come and just give the purpose of the session, as well as take us through a presentation. Maybe before I call Ilse, I must just introduce myself because I just started talking. My name is Rita Vile. I'm going to be facilitating the session for you today. Are there any questions or comments before Ilse comes to do the purpose? Or can I give her, are you comfortable for me to give her the opportunity to give you the purpose, and then maybe you would want to comment after that before she goes into the presentation? Okay. Thank you.
And welcome to the session. You are most welcome, and this afternoon we're going to talk about air quality and specific, so that is the purpose of the session, is to talk about the air quality for Secunda. So as you know, Sasol's got various, you're welcome, you can come in, we've just started. Secunda Operations got 6 ALs, and we want to talk about compliance also to the AL. So how the flow of the program is going to go is, and I want to ask, I know some of you are here to talk about specific complaints and specific events, so we are going to address that, but I would like you to just give us an opportunity to go through some of the slides. I'm going to explain to you now what the flow is going to be, and at the end there's definitely going to be some time for us to discuss then let's say the complaints and air quality at the end. But some of the slides will definitely give you a bit of more context. So I first of all want to know, is that okay? Can we proceed like that? Any objections? Okay, great stuff. So the first few slides, what we're going to discuss is ambient air, and all of us know ambient air is actually our air that we breathe in. So that is typically our air quality. And then the second portion of the slide, we're going to talk. Now I must just remember the order of the slides, please forgive me. The second portion, we had commitments for 1st April 2025 that we implement certain projects into Sasol to comply to lower limits. So my colleague Arda is going to take us through that portion to show where we stand with that project, and how does and where are we in this point in time with that project. Did we meet the 1st April, yes or no? And then the last portion, we're going to talk about the stacks. If you look at the Sasol stacks and you look at the vents, what is actually going out of that stack? So, and we're going to try to correlate that in terms of what we see with the ambient conditions. Okay, and then from there on, we can specifically around the complaints, and you can voice then what you want to talk about. So this is our purpose, and we consult with our communities twice a year, or biannually if you want to call it like that, and we engage with our fence line communities. So, and that's why we are here. So normally our engagements is in June, July, and then in November, December. Okay. Oh, so we kick off with the environmental moment. So environmental moment is a bit on flaring. Now I know a lot of you worked at Sasol, so you know about flaring, but you can see the pictures there on the right hand side is actually not the Sasol flares, but that is photos of a typical flare. The Secunda flares is about 150 meters long, so it's a bit longer than these guys. And we use the flares. Why is the flares always burning? Is because we need the flares as a safety device. So to the flares, there's a little bit of gas that is always going to the flare. and the flare needs to burn. So if there is an upset condition or if there's a trip, we need to send that flammable gas to a flare system to destruct it. And if the flare is working correctly, then we have a 99% destruction rate. When is flaring a problem? Is the bottom photo, as you can see, the black smoke flaring. And that's what we need to try and prevent, because that's the not full combustion that we have there. So if we do not have flares, and there's a, let's say, an upset condition on the plant and that gas is getting released into the atmosphere, it makes a flammable cloud, which can explode and is more harmful to the community. And that is the reason why we need to have operating flares like the top one. And we've got systems in place to prevent black smoking. So there is the scenarios on the board why we flare and when you can actually see flaring. So our aim is, if there is flaring, that we reduce the black smoke as soon as possible and that the black smoke is not continuous. And that is the aim, that it's a safety device and that we reduce the black smoke flaring as quickly as possible. Okay. We can move on. On the ambient monitoring stations, yes, the last time we had a nice discussion on SAKIs. I know not all of you were here on the previous session. So maybe let me start there. SAKIs is all our ambient stations. We've got 7 stations, as you can see on the map. We've got Springs, Leguang, Secunda, you pass there almost on the Salshire Road. There's also an ambient station and almost Voort. So all our ambient stations is SANAS accredited, so it is compliant to ISO 17025. So it's externally verified and we get external auditors to come and verify that. All our data from the system is uploaded to the SAKI system, the South African Air Quality Information System. Now, very important is everybody can have access to that. So you go onto, on your phone, you can download the app or on your computer and you can have access to this data. Okay, so all sasol data will also be there, but you can see it as a South African information system. So you will see weather services data there, you will see other stations there as well, like Eskom or whatever. But you have the ability to see the ambient data on the SAKI system. Okay, so if we dive into the ambient data, so we said ambient data is the ambient air is what we breathe in. So in this room, it's what we breathe in. Everybody contributes to ambient data. Okay, so sasol contributes, sasol operate 24/7, 365, and sasol contribute to ambient data, but there's also veld fires, everything with combustion, mining dust, waste burning, agricultural dust, road dust, cooking and space heating. So everything contributes to ambient data. What do we see here? We look at PM10. We've got 2 different, well, it's particulate matter with different sizes. So PM10 is the bigger size. And a few slides later, we're going to look at the smaller one, PM2.5. That is the more dangerous one because that is very small. But this is now PM10. And what we can see is there's a, and you're going to see it through most of the slide, there's a seasonality trend. Sorry. So in the winter months, normally this picks up. So we're looking at the data. You'll see that the Secunda is in blue, Mbalenhle is in red, and Bossiespruit is then green. So we can see for the winter months, there's a definite pickup in the season trend. These are for Emmalentle North and Leboang. This is also PM10. So we split the two because the first stations is actually just the normal station, and the other two stations we established as part of the offsetting project. So it's just split, but it's talking to PM10. Right, so this is the smaller particulate, this is PM 2.5, and you can, once again, you can see there's a seasonal trend there as well.
Can I ask one question?
Yes, you're welcome.
That first graph that you showed us there, you can see where the red line is that the limit?
Yes, yes, sorry. Yes, that is the, so we've got a standard.
Standard.
A standard, that's correct.
Okay, and everything
that's
that's go above that standard, is it dangerous or is it not dangerous?
Well, I'm not a health professional.
Well, now what are we doing here then?
But let's continue through this, and we'll definitely at the end we can talk about that.
Okay.
Yes, the 2.5 we've talked about now. Yes, and then this is the Emmalentle and Leboang one. Okay, nitrogen dioxide, also from combustion, looking at gas, veld fires, waste burning, cooking and spice heating. But yeah, the red line here, the standard, here at the bottom you can see what is the standard, and then it's indicated on the red line as well. For nitrogen dioxide, we are then below the standard, not like PM. And that's why we are also part of the Highveld priority area, because PM is actually in the Highveld area of concern, and we are a priority area, especially for PM. Okay, this is then the Emmalentle and Leboang station. And then sulfur dioxide, so also a product of combustion. Sulfur in the coal, so sulfur is also playing a big role if you do cooking and spice heating. Sulfur in this case is then also below the standard for this area, and then also for Emmalentle North and Leboang. Right. So the previous time we did have a bit of discussion on buckets as well. So this is then, now we're talking about the bigger particles of dust, and this is actually if you drive a truck and you see on a gravel road, you see that dust particles. This is the size of dust we're talking about. The bucket here on the right hand side is really designed for, also according to the international standard, that we don't get bird contributions also in the bucket, but we sample then these buckets on a monthly basis. It's also an external service provider that comes in and weigh the dust and give us then the results. So you can see the yellow dots on the map is then the dust bucket placement. So we do have more than these that mining also do around their areas, but we're just talking Sekuna operations here, so the mining buckets is not indicated on here. So if we look at our results, just want to show the residential area and the non-residential area, what is the criteria, and then you can see for the months on the left hand side and then the different buckets distributed, and that we are below the limit for non-residential area where sasol action falls. Okay. I'm going to hand over to
I thought we were going to do offset first.
There's a question.
Oh, sorry.
Just a question you mentioned now at the end,
sasol non-residential area.
Yes.
Yes, no, I don't agree with that. Sasol is nearly inside our residential area. So if that standard is for non-residential area, perhaps it should be higher or lower in the red line for us here in the town.
I hear you and I'm at your point. But the particles that we're talking about is really more heavy particles, so it won't travel that far. And that's why you look at your operations, and then there's a standard where the placement should be. So if you have dust, it won't travel that far in terms of dispersing dust particles.
Is it like the ash heaps and so on?
Wind blown dust, basically. So trucks travelling on dust roads, wind coming from the ash heaps. Like that.
No, we're coming to that.
No, this is ambient.
Can maybe we, before Elder starts, can we give our participants a few minutes to make sense? Because I can see there seems to be some.
How old is that picture? That photograph?
Which one?
The whole picture. The whole slide, the whole picture. That one. That is a Google Earth snap. How old is that?
It is a few years old. We've been using this one for 4 years.
Okay.
So the location.
So the locations don't always remain. The locations, what you see on the Google Earth map, those yellow pins are the locations where this bucket on the right hand side that you are seeing. So the yellow pins are locators where this bucket is being set. So remember, this bucket holds the dust. So this particular slide is explaining the dust that falls into the bucket. So in terms of the locations, these are current locations that we are measuring.
Current location on the old picture. We can just see there's some stuff not there. But that's fine.
Okay.
You just want to indicate.
No problem. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Solomon, I was 35 years with sasol, so I just ask questions.
No, you're welcome.
No
Thank
problem. That's the purpose of us being here, that you get an opportunity to ask questions so that by the time you leave, hopefully, there is clarity.
How high is that buckets?
How high is the bucket?
I'm not sure about the specifics, but it's not that high.
1.5. I think it's 1.5 meters.
It's ground.
It's ground level.
Yeah, because it's supposed to pick up wind blown dust.
I think you're correct. They say 1.5. Any other questions, comments before the elder comes?
Yeah, with regards to this presentation. Yeah, so the slides and the graphs, I think you're mixing up different time frames on the graphs. Because if I'm correct, in the red line, that is the average targets per annum, right? It doesn't refer to the average target per day or the limits per hour or every 10 minutes, depending on which substance you're looking at. But the data that we're giving is monthly. So the red line and the bar don't talk to them. And then a question that I have, or a request actually, is if we cannot rather do this on a daily basis. The reason why I ask that is if you look at, for instance, I think it's your nitrogen dioxide. In the past year, sasol has not complied 3 times. And I think the yearly limit is 4. You're only allowed to be over the limit 4 times in a year. But you cannot see it from this data because the data is not granular enough. So when we present next time, is it possible that you can see the 24-hour data to just give a better indication on compliance? And then I also have a question with regards to the H2S measurements. I know that it's not necessarily something that is a legal requirement yet, but sasol way exceeds the recommended standards, which are about 32 ppb. I think quite often you are over 100 ppb, and the H2S has a big impact on the health of the people in town. And you can see that if you look at water stations, if you go and you look at Imba, North Imba, you can see the H2S is something that is extremely high, and I think the government also has a concern with regards to the H2S emissions from sasol. And then the other thing that is a bit concerning is I would like to see, and I know you don't measure it at the stations, so I don't know if it's possible, but what is happening with benzene and toluene and ammonia? Because those are things that we pick up in town, we can smell it, but there are no measurements that are taken. And I know it's also under legal requirements, but it's possible to look at including those measurements in future as well, because
So,
that impact on our
so it's the measurements of ammonia and
toluene, benzene, so the carcinogens. So I think there's been issues with regards to organic waste that is smelled in the area, and we know what it smells like because we work in the environment. And if you've got high organic waste, it contains carcinogens, which obviously in the long run can lead to cancers. And it's not smelled everywhere in town, it's only smelled in certain areas. And I know that sasol is busy looking into what the causes of plates are. But if we have measurements, then we can also see if it is a real issue. And it will also help sasol to be able to prove, listen, we are looking into these things, and the data speaks for itself. So that was the one thing. The other thing is if we can look at how we report the measurements, because from this measurement you can't really see what is happening, because you're looking at monthly data over a year limit. Can we look at daily data?
we've noted that the requests, and the team will go back and see how they can implement them or integrate them into their processes.
And then there's two more things. So some of the stations, some of the measurements have been offline for long periods of time. I look at the Imba North and the Imba stations. I think there were 3 measurements that I couldn't see for more than 2 months. Secunda Sasol Club was better. I mean, if it's offline, I see within a day or two, the system is back online. But it's important that we have continuous monitoring on all the systems. So, yeah, that would be good if we can get that information. And then I'm also a bit concerned with the data becoming more erratic towards the end of this first half, well, let's say the second quarter of this financial, well, not financial, this calendar year. If you look from March onwards, especially with the nitrogen dioxide at the Sasol Club, the spikes are becoming more erratic, especially compared to the beginning of the year, which looks like there is instability in the process. So I don't know what the cause is, but it's just maybe something that should be taken note of.
So we're getting to the process, but this in May, we can see the Imba station was down, and the analyzer was stolen. But if we go to the rest, I think the rest of them we do have data for ambient, but we're getting to the process now.
Yeah, but if I look at the Imba station, what the nitrogen dioxide and the sulfur dioxide in 2023, there were 2 months. The particulate matter, nitrogen dioxide, H2S, nitrogen dioxide, and sulfur dioxide, both of them, all 3 of those measurements were missing for about 2 months. That's 2023, so it's not on this product.
So not 2025?
Yeah, now I'm just saying that
okay.
I picked up that there are instances where there are measurements that are offline for quite some time. I understand if it's like a day or 2, 3, maybe a week, you're waiting for spares, but if it's for 2 months, then
And I do think that was also the time with the load shedding.
But also with vandalism, because what they do is they steal our battery packs or our solar power.
okay.
And then with load shedding, there's no power, no solar, no backup. And it's not something that you can put up
Yeah, okay.
within a week. So yes, it is a bit difficult. And they are at remote areas. The one in the club, there's lots of people around. The other places,
Yeah, no.
maybe
I
a
see
bit
the
more.
club looks nice compared to the other two.
Thank you very much for the comments and the inputs. We've noted them. I'm going to hand over to Erda to continue with the presentation, and then we can have more comments after that.
Okay. Yeah, let's go to the first slide, please. All right, so we also talked about the ambient air, which is the air in the communities. I'm going to talk about sasol, the project firstly, and then also what is coming out of our main stacks and the other projects, or the other sources that we managed to decommission in time. Okay, so most of you should know that the 1st of April there was new legislation coming in where most of our limits were halved, or almost halved. For PM it was halved, NOx was about 3/4 lower, and so on. So we were busy with projects for a number of years to try and reduce our emissions. All the boilers on the site, we've got 17, has been installed with high frequency controllers, which makes the ESPs, the electrostatic precipitators, more efficient, so we can take out more dust. And what happened now is that we are in compliance with the new standard, that is 50 milligrams per normal cubic meter at 10% oxygen. Okay, for the NOx emissions, 15 of our boilers has been installed with low NOx burners. What low NOx burners basically do is it changes the temperature at which the coal combusts, and that makes that we produce less NOx. Okay, so both the boilers and also the gas turbines are compliant with the new minimum emission standards, which for the boilers is 750 milligrams per normal cubic meter at 10% oxygen, and for the gas turbines it's 50 milligrams per normal cubic meter at 15% oxygen. Okay. Then for the VOC emissions, we have done a number of projects over the years. There were reduction on drains where we closed the drains and things like that. We've put up a number of regenerative thermal oxidizers, 7 in total, and where we had other sources of VOCs, we take them actually to the regenerative thermal oxidizers where it gets combusted. So the benzene that you were talking about, Rex, there it gets combusted to CO2 and water, basically. Okay, so in terms of the projects that we actually made commitments on, in terms of our AL and postponement applications, you will see that the emissions from the phenosolvent dig pitcher and sand filter vents was also routed to the Unit 13 and 213 RTOs, so there is no more point sources there. Okay. In the last one, everybody is usually very concerned about incinerators because it is hazardous waste that gets combusted there. We can say that the biosludge degasification project has been completed. The biosludge incinerators was decommissioned, and then as well with the Howe incinerators. The Howe is now no longer incinerated, but taken to the bioprocess, and then because of the integrated process of the site itself, it goes to the biobasins, it gets digested there, and it moves together with the rest of the sludge. Okay, go to the next slide. Okay, now to get to the point source emissions, basically the main stacks, and then also the other ones. You can go to the next one. This is just, we can skip this slide, it's just to show everybody it's a very integrated process, but I'm sure if you said you worked 35 years, you know that. Okay, so this is our PM emissions. The red line is where the limit was up until the 1st of April this year, and then it dropped to 50, and this is just to show that the emissions are below 50 since the 1st of April of this year. Okay, then the NOx emissions, similar. The limit dropped the 1st of April, and you can see that there was a big reduction in emissions from the 1st of April. Rex, you said that there was a lot of ups and downs, instabilities. That is correct. We've been having problems with coal quality, the way that it comes in. Has an impact on the way that we work at coal processing, which means that we cannot dewater the coal well enough. If you take wet coal to the boilers, it is very difficult to control the temperature in the boiler, and therefore the NOx is erratic. Okay. So, all right. So, okay, the next slide. That is our SO2 concentrations. As you can see, the limit was 2,000 up until, for each stack, for both east and west, up to the 1st of April. Then it was down. The red one is for the western stack, the blue one is for the eastern stack, but you can see that we are operating below that. Okay. Next one, this is the H2S. H2S that comes from sulfur recovery and rectisol, or first rectisol, then sulfur recovery and going to the main stacks. This is the concentration that is emitted in tons per hour. There is one for the east, one for the west, and then the sum of the two. We are not allowed to emit more than 13.5 tons per hour, and this is the graph. So we came close mid last year, but since then we have improved a lot. Okay. Okay, this is the incinerator emissions. But the most important thing, we've got a slide for each incinerator. There was 4 biosludge and 2 how. The important part is that it was decommissioned the 1st of April. So we will no longer be showing the slides because it's not there anymore. Okay. And that is basically all the slides. So there's one for each incinerator. I don't know if there's any questions.
With regards to this presentation now with the slides, can you just go back to the first one?
Which this one?
No, still back. There we said about the how and the sludge incinerations that is decommissioned. I think it's on your first slide in your presentation.
Nog een terug, Petrus. One back, 2 back. Back. There, back.
That bottom section there, that is what we are here for. And that is what the town gets, that's what the town smells, and that is what making the people sick in this town. And I'm not a medical doctor to say sick, but go and speak to the practitioners. You will hear horrible stories about that. Rex and a partner of his did studies on that high organic waste for years and years and years. We know how dangerous that stuff is. We know. Now you're putting it into the aeration basins. We tried that hundreds of times in the 36 years that I was in sasol. It killed the bacteria inside the basins. But now the thing is, the high organic waste was incinerated. Now it's not incinerated anymore. It comes into the plant, goes through the biobasins, goes through the overflow to the dams at the back, and that is where the smells in the town come from. When the wind is from the south, western south side, then that fumes and whatever. That is what is heating the town. So what are you guys doing? Because that is carcinogenic big time. In the times, just to make a picture or give you a picture, when somebody used to work by that high organic waste tanks, whether it be a mechanic or electrical or instrumentation or production people, you wore protective clothing, this thick. You had lifelines there, you had oxygen masks there, you had even the fire department doing standby if somebody's going to do work on a pump to maintain or change a mechanical seal or anything. Now it's into the aeration basins, it evaporates into the air for free. The composition of high organic waste hasn't changed. I don't think so, Rex. I think it's still the same that it was. When we worked at that tanks, when you go home after your shift, you stop 2 blocks away from the house, take your clothes off so that the wife doesn't smell you. And now it goes for free into the air. And it comes from the dams. It's coming from nowhere else. Now you put it into an aeration basin, 17,280 cubes volume. And whatever fumes get off there, you feel seestof from that here. You oxygenate that basin, that's 17,280 cubes, which makes bubbles, and the bubbles makes it to evaporate. It goes up to, and that's what I discussed with Ilse many a time. That is the stuff that we get in town. That is the stuff that the people is complaining about. That is the cat pee, the smell that they say. That's the ammonia. That is all the funny things. It's high organic waste, and it's running free in the air, and we have to breathe it. It used to be very, very toxic, very, very dangerous, and now it's for mahala.
So, Ilse did mention that we will give feedback on the complaints and what is happening there. So we will come colleague and has good information.
Can I maybe, before we start with the complaints, check if the presentation on your section is done, Anna?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so fully understand. I think what I also want to highlight is previously you've mentioned that previously sasol had looked at the how to buy processes many times. It wasn't successful. But if you look at how as is, I fully agree with you. But the big change was it's diluted. It's diluted with reaction water. The moment you dilute it, the concentrations in the hull reduce significantly, like really significantly. And then it's pumped in the aerators. So yes, there has been various complaints about cat urine, H2S, sulfur, ammonia. Odor is very complex because it peaks. You get it instantly, sometimes it's 10-15 minutes time and then the odor is gone again. Okay? So it's also very subjective. There was one event, just an example, we went outside, I was sending the kids outside quickly and they smelled something and I went out and my husband went out and we smelled 2 different things at exactly the same time. So either H2S, either sulfur, either ammonia. So what sasol is doing to this, and we are looking into it, I'm also part of that investigation, is we are looking at everything. We are trying to understand what is all the potential sources. We're doing a root cause analysis, identifying what are the potential pollutants or chemicals associated with that smell. If we talk about cat urine, then it's H2S, ammonia, mostly ammonia with a little bit of sulfur, so it can be that. It can be macapans that has been mixed with petrol and diesel as well. We're looking at H2S, sulfur, so depending on what is the type of complaints, if it's how is how categorized, if it's cat urine, how is cat urine categorized. So we are identifying what are those potential smells, categorizing it, and then go and understand where in the plant do we get those type of smells, and then start seeing for each of the complaint events what could have been potentially been an upset condition or not. Also, the first step is that all the complaints that is not associated with the wind direction from the factory, those are eliminated. So we're trying to narrow it down. We're also doing site visits to the different plants to go and actually do proper measurements on the pollutants itself. And we're also doing ambient measurements. Also measured the hyacinths in the dam area, because normally you get all the hyacinths that's pushed through from the Hammerberg dam, and if you remove it out, that can also be complaints. So we are still busy with the process. We are not done yet, but we are looking at all the potential sources so that we can narrow it down and identify exactly which of those pollutants could have caused it. Yeah?
Yeah, because something happened, and there must be an event coupled to that, because it's the last month, 2 months that we get that smell.
Yes.
So something changed.
Temperature also changed. Conditions in the atmosphere.
Yeah, but every year we have a temperature change that we
But the incinerators were turned off. Isn't that what happened at that stage?
No, because the complaints happened since November last year. This complaint. So this only happened in April. So it's not.
When did the
When
incineration stop in April?
the end of March, the incinerators were shut down. So
You
this
see-
was not necessary. So we're looking at everything. And also remember the factory is quite big. So we need to look at all the different aspects.
No, I agree that we have to look, but all I'm saying is that there is a vent and it's the last 2-3 months that we have a spell that we haven't had before. So in the meantime, while we're doing all these tests and exercises, we are, as the residents, are part of the air purification system through our lungs, and that's not good. So what is the road ahead looking at? When is the deadline for trying to eliminate this stuff?
If I may ask, what is the current flow of this high organic waste down to the 52s? What's the volume?
Very low. If I need to recall, I don't know if I have the exact value.
3.5 now.
I think it's 1.3. 1.3%.
In extreme cases in our times was 4.85 was max.
Yeah.
But normally it's about 3.5 and so that you burnt into the incinerators and into the sludge incinerators. There was even connections down to the sludge incinerators.
But that's highly concentrated how at
Yeah.
that flow rate. Now I'm talking about how diluted, significantly diluted into the biobasins. So we need to remember it's diluted into the biobasins.
But now you must also remember,
Okay.
it goes into the basins, goes through the sectors, it goes into CD102, it gets pumped by PC106s back to the cooling towers,
Yeah.
and then it goes into the atmosphere,
Yeah.
straight. And what doesn't go through the atmosphere, through the cooling towers, goes down to the dams. And that, due to the sludge in the dams, the water is very dark, it gets heated up by the sun very easy. Then you get your evaporations of those fumes, and the wind comes from that side straight to town.
Much higher temperatures as what we expected in the water. Yeah. Okay, I've noted. Next.
Yeah. So, first question, have you looked at maybe anaerobic participants, WLF instead of,
Yeah, WRG.
yeah, with recovery growth, instead of looking at the aerobic biomass?
So quite extensive piloting was done before they introduced the solution to assess all the different risks. So I can't tell you upfront now that AEs were considered for what reasons, but it would have been one of the processes that was looked at.
Yeah, I'm just thinking if it could work there, then obviously you can contain any gases.
Yeah, true. I can ask that
The
question.
other question is when they do mixing at what temperatures and what temperatures the reaction will take? Because obviously the hotter it is,
The easier it will be.
you're not going to mix the ammonia, you're just going to boil it off. You put it in SGL. I mean, that temperature is so hot, and if you look at the cooling towers at 52, that will go up with the speed.
Yes.
Yeah. So just some
Yeah.
consideration.
I'm not exactly sure at what temperature they are mixing it, but it would have been when they cooled it down sufficiently, so between 25 to 30%.
But I also just want to add,
Yeah.
the design of the house system, the tanks, was designed that it was 24/7 under a nitrogen blanket.
Yes.
That is how dangerous and smelly this
Yes, for
stuff
vents.
was. And now that blanket is gone, so it's now free to go into the atmosphere.
No, it's not.
It is.
No.
That's
The
what we
blanket is
smell,
still
my
there.
dear.
No,
That's
the
what we smell.
So the blanket is still there. It will
Where?
not be on the hull tanks. The
but the
nitrogen
hull
blanket
tanks-
is still there. The only difference is the hull is not routed to the incinerators anymore.
I know.
That's the only difference. It's been routed to the biomass. But the hull tanks is still operational. It's still as it was previously.
But now you take
Cannot
it from the
change
tank to the aeration basin, and from there it evaporates.
No, it goes from the tank mixed with reaction water, diluted significantly,
okay.
and then going
Going
to
to
the
the
aerated
second
basins.
zone or the third zone of the ABs.
Of the, yeah, I think it was the, I'm not exactly sure of the dilution, but we are taking
I
measurements
left
there
that
as
place
well,
15
so-
years, 16 years ago, and I still remember exactly what's going on there.
Okay.
I think some of the concern is it's not something else, it's definitely a high organic waste.
It's a high organic waste it is.
And, I mean, I work with Kinsol, and I know how the stuff smells. You go take it to Benfield, they'll tell you, I'm on Benfield, with my eyes closed. I know what the carbon smells like.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm not wondering if it is organic waste or not. What we would like to know is what can be done to eliminate the problem. It's not a constant problem. It's not something that is in town frequently. I mean, it's not there 24/7.
No.
Every now and then it's
Just the wind direction brings it from the dams because that's where it's coming from.
so it's just like what can be done to minimize the impact that we are currently experiencing. So
I think, yeah. So,
One of
so
our
like-
colleagues did a 4-year study of Martin Norman. He did a 4-year study about this, helping in the aeration basins, and I spoke to him last night for 2 hours again. He's prepared to give all his stuff to Ilse, just to help you embark on a route or to see what's the history of this stuff, where does it come from, how does it work. No microorganism or bacteria in that. What is the mixed liquor suspended solids in those basins currently?
I don't know that.
Anybody know?
I'm an air quality specialist.
Yeah, I'm just asking. Normally we run about 16,000 milligrams per liter. On the A pumps and the B pumps was higher, 28, 32s. If you put that high organic waste in there, within a week that basin is dead. All the microorganisms is dead. It would be maybe a nice thing is if you can just go back in the history of the NRSS and the SSS in the basins, just to see what the population did when you mix the high organic waste in.
Okay. But it would be helpful if you can share that information too. Listen, anything that is going to be helpful would be good if there's...
Rex and Martin is big cows. I gisteravond even noticed, he told me last night, please tell the people I will give all my paperwork.
Yeah. Sorry, there was another question that I missed. Did I address everything or did I think I missed maybe one question.
So, I think that obviously, so that you're not responsible for the engineering that has to happen, you're just monitoring the outcome, right?
Yeah, so I'm part of the investigation that's looking at it from an AV and air quality perspective. So I'm in research and technology and I'm also living in a community, so I'm also having a vast interest in solving this. What I can definitely tell you is that we are busy collating all the information, doing it regularly as possible, accounting for everything that's been changed and that's been inputted, so that we can give an answer back as soon as possible.
So who are the people that are responsible for engineering?
Everyone from all the plants. So we have different plant representatives that is assisting and it's helping.
Is there not a specific project to look at the high organic waste, or is it must be an engineer that's responsible for it?
Yeah.
So maybe if you could put us into contact with whoever that person is, then you can have discussions with them to say all the things that we've seen in the past and ideas that we can maybe help.
Let's take it further.
Yeah.
Take another one.
Yeah, we'd like to be involved in if there's anything that we can do to help, we'd like to do that. You don't just make us complain.
True, thank you, Rex.
So that explains to me what I've heard here now, why when we talk about this smell and we try and correlate that with the information that you find on those nice graphs and things that says air quality, you won't find and correlate that to those graphs and things, because you look at the day's information and it says Secunda air quality good. It's either 1 or 2, but you stand outside in the smell, so it can't be good. So that doesn't mean anything as far as good is concerned for the consumer of the air.
I wouldn't say that.
No.
Because remember, they are legal.
No, I understand that.
There are legal requirements which government says you have to meet,
Mm.
and I think that is what is being reported on, especially on the station.
That
The things that we are complaining about are sources that are not measured.
That's correct, but that's exactly what I'm saying. So you can't correlate. It says air quality good, but you have this bad smell.
According to the legal requirements that government is saying.
Yeah, but so what we're smelling is not measured.
Yeah, because it's something else.
They're smelling different stuff.
Also remember, smell, you can pick up at very, very low concentrations. It's very low concentration that some of the instruments might not be able to pick it up. Where it becomes offensive and a health concern is much higher levels. So if you smell something at the peak for 15 minutes, it's like smelling coffee. Not always, but taking an example, if you smell coffee versus if you smell a fire burning. It can be a short impact, but it's not necessarily to say that that short impact have a health impact at that moment. It's continuously emitted for a certain level, where it starts becoming a problem. And that's what we're also trying to navigate. And like Rex has mentioned, the data that's been shared here is the national ambient air quality standards. So those are the standards that's been set around South Africa. I think it's the same standards across South Africa. Some of the municipality hasn't made it more stringent. And it has different levels for different pollutants. So SOx, you get 10-minute limit, you get hourly limit, you get the daily limit, and you get an annual limit. The annual limit is the only limit that you're not allowed to exceed any time, because statistically your variability will be higher hourly, and then it will flatten out over an annual basis. But that's thank you, Rex, the question that was noted, that to add all the other things in the time periods, it was never requested before, so we'll add it in the next public engagement sessions to look at the NOx, the PM, the SOx, for the hourly, the daily, everything that's linked to the air quality standards. So that can be done.
I still think it would be good if we can measure the ammonia, the benzene, toluene, those type of things. If we can measure it, it would be a good thing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if sasol is complying, then it would be back up to say, listen, even on these things that does not have a legal limit yet, we even complying with.
But also remember, you're talking about ambient data. Sasol is not the sole contributor to the ambient data at the club. We are part of it, but we're not all of it.
But who else is going to add to the ammonia and the benzene?
No, I'm just saying that it needs to be seen in that context too. If you look at the data, you cannot just say that it's speaking because it's this.
The pollutants that we are talking about, there's no other contributors to those pollutants. We don't have anyone else who's going to be producing benzene or toluene or ammonia who's going to add that to our ambient quality, air quality easily. I mean, ESCOM, maybe they will use ammonia in their precepts.
Yeah, they do.
But toluene and benzene.
VOCs, cars, vehicle emissions, there's other sources of VOCs too.
No, I agree with VOCs, but I'm specifically talking about those components.
Yeah, to add those components to the tracking.
Would it be a big thing to? I don't know what it costs for the analyzers, so I mean, it's easy to say. I don't know. I'm just thinking it would be good.
It can be good, yeah. I think it can be looked at and evaluated and considered.
Yeah, obviously sasol has the right to say no. It's not a legal requirement. You not include it. I understand that. My one concern is, however, the H2S, which is not a legal requirement yet. But if we look at the H2S emissions that sasol currently has, it's high. The graph that Ada showed was the tons per hour, but that doesn't speak to concentration. If you look at world standards, it's 41 milligrams per cube, 50 ppb, and sasol way exceeds that. You meet the tons per hour target, which government has set, but because they haven't put a concentration target. And if they do,
we have a tons per day as well as a concentration targets in the stack, and we are meeting all of those. I'm just not sure if it's...
No, it wasn't on that.
On
the slide,
but it is
I have it available.
Yeah, it's both. So Rex,
you're not meeting H2S.
I'm considering you are talking about the ambient limit, which there's no ambient standard yet. Yeah, and it's still up for...
If I look at what the club measures, it's 100 ppbs, 150 ppbs, and if I look at California standard, it's 41, or 30 ppbs.
Yeah.
So it's way over some of the international standards. And I'm just saying if it becomes a standard in the future, because I know it's under discussion.
Yes, it is.
Frequently it's a topic.
Yeah.
Then sasol won't be able to say, we haven't really looked at it, because sasol's been using it since 2015. It's 15 years later, there's nothing been done with regards to decreasing the H2S emissions that sasol is currently putting into the atmosphere.
Yeah.
So the question is, what is being done? Because it's not going to be cheap. I mean, if you look at refurbishing the process that we currently have, or building an extra wet sulfuric acid plant, we're talking about billions of rands.
True.
So now I assume that's why sasol hasn't done anything yet, because of the amount of money that it costs.
Yeah, and we're continuously evaluating what is on a techno-economical feasible solutions, how can we address it. So if there's any other projects like the coal quality improvements, there will be a benefit on a coal quality improvements that goes through this gasification unit that actually goes ultimately to the HTS as well.
So is the pelletizer project one of the things that sasol is bargaining on with regards to salt emissions?
Palletizing project,
The coal
apologies.
pelletizing. Oh, sorry, not pelletizing, the destoning.
The destoning project is mainly driven for coal quality, but it will have additional benefits of sulfur removal and H2S sulfur removal that will happen.
Timeline for that project to be completed?
It's still on the AEL phase, environmental impact, just receive final report.
Okay. So I think it's early next year, Rex, if I recall.
Yeah, but let's get back to you and just give you the exact date. We don't have that project right now here with us. So I've been taking some notes of next steps that we need to do, and we can get back to you to the exact date. No one of the teams got the exact date here with us.
Yeah, I mean, the project manager will be news on it.
Yeah, but it will definitely have an impact.
But can you also let us know what the impact is?
Meaning?
So not only the time, but what is the expected impact on the sulfur content that is put into the atmosphere?
So I think they are still busy with that evaluations. And remember, this is a project that was driven from a mining perspective to reduce the input of the coal to the gasification. So we can try to get that information if it's already available.
I'm sure it's probably one of the economic benefits for getting the project justified. It should be. I can't think what would be the other justification for these time.
Better quality coal to the gasification, that's your main driver.
Yeah.
With additional, but that main driver is not the sulfur reduction necessarily. There's additional benefits that come with that. Yeah, that will still quantify, that we're busy quantifying what those benefits are.
If I may, I've got a colleague who has been assisting in the project, so she just wants to comment. But I think most of the other facts about the project will be sent with the information that Ilse is going to provide. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Rosa Basis, Stakeholder Relations. This stoning project, one of its benefits, or two of its benefits, is that it's going to be a wet technology. So it will reduce dust and it will also improve the air quality. And they also said that it will also increase efficiency in terms of coal production. So it's going to be based on the south side towards the Charles Series area between Brunswick and Bosjesspruit, but on that side. So it's going to be have positive impact for air quality. That's all I know in a layman's language.
Can I just ask something? I know the government are making demands all the time. Are they helping at all? Are they backing you, helping you? Because they are asking you to do this and do that. And so?
They assist us in granting licenses. They are the...
Okay. So no.
Yeah. You know, look at the faces, the answer was no.
No, I think...
stand on the other side like this.
So government has government's mandate is to ensure that in terms of air quality, the environment is safe for people to live in. That is their responsibility. That is what they are doing. Industry's responsibility is to comply to the emission limits that are being granted. Yes, there are going to be up and downs, but that's ultimately the responsibility from government. So we are working with them, we are in engagements with them. So yeah, each one have a responsibility, and we also have a responsibility to ensure that we can reduce our emissions as fast as possible.
That's what worries me.
questions? Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. My name is Wilson. I have a few comments here before I come to the questions. I think I have quite a number of questions, around 5 to 10, which I believe could be answered. Especially, I don't believe that it is necessary for a group of people to gather and do a project like the one that we are doing, review, participate, without understanding the results, what they assist the same people that are gathered. Otherwise, we're just passing time. We are just like experimental guinea pigs who come into the picture to substantiate and guarantee a process, then it goes through. But let me come here. The gentleman behind me explained the plethora of perceived breaches around the cat urine matter and other related matters. There's also the issue of ammonia gas, hydrogen sulfide gas resulting from your periodic sulfur recovery system failures, which you know they happen from time to time. My question is, after he has pointed out all those things, what is your role as the team that is making a presentation and as the representatives of sasol? And the main question being that, can these gentlemen and these ladies' views be incorporated into your main policy framework going forward to say it helps for us to sit here because we will take it back to our policy formulators and engineers so that they can factor in. Because some of these are people with 35, 40 years experience who have been there. They have not been able to say everything or anything because they were afraid they were going to be charged under one thing or another, get removed from the system of sasol. Now that they are outside, they are giving you very insightful information without censorship, of course, because now they are not afraid of being checked out of that system. How much are you ripping in from that system so that it assists you to go and make the relevant policy changes that allows for the system overhaul that is going to assist our people? Like I said, what is our role as participants? Our process, is it for you to do this so that you can get your AEL approval, then you get your next license for the next couple of years, then you come back again? What is our role? I want someone to explain to that. What do we stand for when we are here? The other question that I have, if all the participants who met us and who really want to meet can receive a presentation, because I'm struggling here, trying to take screenshots so that I can go and make sense out of them, so that we receive this document. I don't think it's classified. We go through it thoroughly so that when we come to engage, we're engaging on data that we've already consumed in advance. Can that be done in the future? Because I think I'm going to be a regular feature of these things going forward. I'm going to be looking very closely at the announcements on the media, social media, although they hardly come by. We have discussed this a little bit earlier on. The presenters, I'm sorry to say this, but I've seen quite a couple of presenters. When they ask the questions from the audience, some of them will say, hey, I don't know about that part, you understand, we're still going to consult. I would have expected only the experts to be sitting in front of us here so that when they stand up, they could practically answer almost every question that we can throw at them. So if we have a couple of people saying we don't know, then we begin to wonder whether really this session is worth its salt. Now let me come to the questions that I really needed to ask. Do you ever take suggestions from your participants, especially former experts from the system? I think I've already, to make a feedback to your operation system to consider factoring in for future improvements on your policy framework. Number two, exactly what is the role of our stakeholders, participants in this AELS participation? Do we matter? If we do, how much? What do we represent? Can we make a change that is envisaged by the communities? Number three, do you have any program that teaches community experts, even young people, about the effects, dangers, and their recourse surrounding your presentations, promoting quality knowledge? You will be proud to say you are presenting your stuff to people who really know. I've got a few guys around here who got quite a lot of knowledge, but they didn't get it from anyone. They are digging for that. Can sasol Because at one point I remember the government Beg municipality was fined for discharging live sewage into the effluent system of the river, the rivers and stuff like that. One of the judgments when they were fined about, was it 150 million Van Hesten? How much was that? Quite a lot.
That was 200 million.
200 million. They said out of the 200 million, they are going to be allowed to take 50 million and give it to environmental concerned groups that are going to promote studies to continue monitoring. So in other words, sasol does not invest in a program that allows their critics to go and have more studies and have a better understanding, so that as much as we have experts from your side, we also have experts from environmental specialists who have been sponsored by the same system to say, go and check us. It's just like allowing auditors to come and audit you, to say, we've got nothing to hide. Right now, we've got people who are giving us things that have not been audited, which we cannot dispute because I have got no knowledge of all those things. This is my question, and I wish to get an answer around that. Most coal-powered power stations around South Africa are being decommissioned, exactly for the reasons we are here. Environmental impact, health reasons, and all those sort of things. What is happening with sasol? It seems it's going undeterred, while others are being shut down for really understanding that they're damaging the environment, the health implications. Some people just collapsing along the way. You don't know what killed them, but you've got all these smells again, which people are telling us they are not harmful. Question number 5. Sasol is not a sole contributor. I think that statement was said by you, ma'am, standing over there. I believe you. You are right. That's why you have got what we call the offset programs, to make sure that they offset the other contribution effects that are as a result of your existing framework. I can take you back to say the establishment of Emberland at the time and all the surrounding town was in response to establishing of the plant. Therefore, whenever they've got any extra activities, there is a direct existence of your company. So you cannot separate those. And my question then would say, would you substantiate that with estimates in terms of percentage overlap? You cannot just stand there and tell us we are not the sole contributor, so what do you want us to do? We exonerate you based on that statement? Tell us how much out of 100% is social contribution? How much out of that is the other party that you are referring us to? The last question. Breaches meant the breaches that we have seen there. There was a red line which says, no, we can't cross this. We have seen some spikes going slightly above that. These breaches, they just mean constant consequences to us who are breathing that air. What are the mitigating factors and or the offsetting factors, especially to the health system? Do you ever invest in the health system to make sure that, yes, we're going to get a lot of people sick because of this hazards and stuff, but our hospitals, especially for respiratory diseases, there is this contribution that we have made in those hospitals. I think I will be very glad to get answers from those questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I note you. I've got colleagues that will respond to the questions between our environmental teams. They will let me know who's going to answer, but before they do, while they are thinking who's going to answer what,
in fact, I just wanted to check if Mr. Chalke can assist us by giving us the list of the question that he has, so that the team can go and look at them. Am I correct, Mr. Wilson, that you are a councillor in JMM?
Yes, I am.
In governing baking.
But I'm not in that capacity. I'm just a resident coming to you.
You came as a resident. Because I was going to say we've got an environmental team that regularly meets with the quality team of sasol, discussing all these environmental aspects from water, air, wind, all of them, so that we could include you in those engagements for some of the future references in these aspects of your interest. but we would like to request a copy of it, so
Correct.
that
I
we can,
think that's
I can
welcome.
photocopy it and give it back to you.
Yeah, I can even put them in writing and
I
email
will
them to you. That would
appreciate
be
it,
much
yes,
better. Yeah.
because it's quite comprehensive for the team to zoom into it immediately. Like we have also observed that not all of us are experts here. Some of us are the spokespersons for our departments. Some of our experts we've left behind. We've got many experts, so I think the ex-colleagues can confirm that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Yes, okay. So I don't get all the questions, but the presentation, it is definitely not classified and we will circulate. Okay, so but first of all I want to ask that everybody needs to please complete the attendance register with your email address. You didn't get the email. Okay, so that is a problem that
I think it's one of those emails that were returned, something came back.
Okay, so
took it incorrectly.
just check your email address because we want to update our database. Okay, so there is, we want to update the database to make sure you are on the database, and then that the invite can go to your email as well. Yes, the invitations for these sessions is in the newspaper, and I see Marianne did a wonderful job in posting on all the community forums, so at least I think the invites is going out. But yes, sir.
Sorry, just on that,
Yes.
how long before the time does the invites go out?
My corporate affairs colleagues,
I send it on the 18th, 7 days before.
a week before, is that
But we first send in 30 days, we first send a request for permission to use your name. And then you reply. When you reply, then we send you the invite.
Yeah, so according to the Copy Act, we're not just allowed to use your mail address. So we first ask you the question 30 days before the time, can we please send you a mail? If you do not want a mail, please reply to us, that we can remove you from our distribution list. If we do not receive a reply from you, then we will go ahead and use your mail address. Okay. So that's the first step is, can we use your mail address? If not, please remove your name. Please tell us that we can remove your name from our distribution list.
So do not respond.
Put it like that. So after.
Sorry, can I use the email address to put a question to you? Yes,
please.
Yes.
We appreciate. I get that. Or you will use the same platform. Are you trying to respond? Are there any comments people that would like to make that we can take into consideration while she's still looking, so that we don't give her pressure, so that she doesn't feel pressurized?
No, we're only asking questions.
Only questions and answers. But I must say, I appreciate the passion with which most of the sasol ex-employees are engaging with us, and the interest you have in this environment, because it is the only air you breathe, the only environment you live in. We appreciate that, and to us that adds value to our engagement, because without your inputs, our engagements mean nothing.
When I came here, there was even no houses. There was a couple of houses built here. Yeah. There was no roads, there was no schools, there was no nothing.
Yeah.
There was one of it.
Okay. I'm going to take it back. I'm still the chairperson of the meeting. Please, everything must go through me to make sure that we can register all the consents and comments. Otherwise, we end up losing some valuable information. Mr. Wilson?
No, actually she had suggested to say, do you have any suggestions?
Yes.
I do have a strong suggestion. I think it's centered around one of the questions that I asked today. That is part of your stakeholder engagement processes to promote transparency and the little
Mind
bit.
if I record what you're saying?
Of course, of course. I think if it's on record, one of the things that I would suggest is that there are a lot of expert opinions that are being offered by ex-sasol employees, especially those who have worked with hardware and equipment and who were on the ground. They could see the challenges, the type of toxicity that is. If they come up with, I think you should sort of come up with an organization of former sasol employees who can constructively assist you in meeting some of the corrections that you need to make inside. That's one. Number two, we are also expecting, not as part of those gangs of hooligans who, when they get a little bit of information, they want to blackmail an organization into submission and stuff. Not as part of that, but as part of a genuine concern that you organize and look at all people who are interested in environmental matters and they do not have adequate knowledge. I'll assist them in forming an organization that genuinely cares about the environment, give them more knowledge, allow them to study certain subjects related to that matter so that in the future they can give you much better engagement concerning your community participation. Because participating with blind community members who knows nothing about what you're talking about, it's just like coming here for compliance purposes, and we don't expect that. We will derive a lot of mutual beneficial benefits between sasol and the residents themselves out of such a process. So I think those are two of the suggestions that I would want to have on people. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
If I can just add to that, if you take, we're just discussing here the few guys of us that left sasol about 10 years ago. Collectively, we've got more than 200 years of service. We've got lots of experience. I spoke to Ilse the other day. We would like to engage in this. We would like to say, in the past, we had this experience and this and that. We've done this, this works, this doesn't work. We've been there for millions of hours. We gladly assist.
Can I respond to that?
Okay. Thank you. Thanks.
I think we've made some definite next steps. So one of them was to update the ambient graph and to include your suggestions. So that's one of the next steps that we've noted down. One of the other next steps that we noted down is book a meeting, get the information and have a small discussion group with everybody that's interested, right? So I think for that group we will invite people around the table. If you want to invite other people, we don't want the crowd to be obviously too big, but please inform them that we can engage. From our side, I committed that we want to have the correct people in the room, and that was something that we said. There was a lot of people that was on leave, and it was a interesting time. So we want to have the right people also. We don't want any. We just don't want to engage. We want the right people from sasol side also around the table. So that's also then the next step that we do have from our side. Then we can also give a bit more detail on the complaint investigation. Where are we in current time, and what do we see, and where are we in that? So that's from the strong next steps. Retabile, but you probably noted down other next steps as well for us. But that was the two big issues that came out for me that I noted down. Then on the questions, the first one is, so do we take this back to if we get suggestions? And I want to, earlier on the complaint slide was on there, the number as well as the email address. We do take it extremely serious. Every complaint we get, we notify our licensing officer. You asked about our licensing officers, and we notify her of every complaint. We also notify her of the various complaints we have in Secunda, and we committed that we will give her in detailed feedback on that as well. So we take it very serious because we need to work in a team, government, industry and community. We are a team and we need to work together. So we notify her of everything every complaint we get, we notify her of. And then we also want to have that engagement with the community that we can work together towards a solution. So that definitely impacts our ways of working. If we get a complaint and we can track where it comes from, how can we effectively resolve that?
Exactly. Do you have any program that teaches communities about the effects, dangers, and their recourse?
It's that button. Yeah, I just wanted to get to the right slide, but maybe I can talk to that. So we have an offsetting project. You've heard about it now in our previous engagement in December. We've got an offsetting project where we have an education and awareness program for communities, for schools. So that program was completed. And what that program entailed was, and I'm going to talk to the awareness portion of that, we also do offsetting in the communities, retrofitting houses with gas. We take out the conventional ovens and then we retrofit it with gas stove. We insulate the house, and there was houses in Imbalenhle and in Lebuhang that was done. But your question specifically was on education and awareness. So our education and awareness program ran in primary schools, and then that was the first phase. Primary schools targeting different ages. The small kids had coloring books, puzzles, and we went around to the schools educating them. All the primary schools, and then we went over to the secondary schools, and what we've done for them was we did a virtual tour of an ambient station, and they had to go onto the Saki system where we explained where all our data is also available, and they had to draw a graph. What do they see? Why do they see that? So we do have education and awareness programs in the schools, and we include most schools in the government Beki area, as well as actually further as well. So we work with the Department of Education. They identify schools who's got capacity to work with us. For the high schools, all the high schools in the area participated except for High School Secunda. They were fully committed at that stage, so they were not part of it, but all the other schools in Bethel, in Imbalenhle and in Secunda participated in that. That program was concluded. I think there was the amount of learners, I've got it on a slide, but I can show you that. So what we do at this stage is we have meetings with MDARLIA, with current projects that's in communities running, and we want to latch onto that and support that. And that is also a way where industry and the local government can work together and supporting our schools. So there's various projects. And they reached out to us and said, can we please support? So we are in talks at the moment to see how we can support that.
Well, I'm sorry to make this look like a dialogue. Actually, I think you completely missed my question. I'm aware you got all these outreach programs where you teach people, but I was speaking specifically because it does not assist us to go and teach a multitude of people and children who do not have interest in the air quality systems. You understand? We've got constant people that you know who attend your meetings when you are doing community engagements. Like some gentlemen behind me, I didn't get an opportunity to have a look at them. Some of them are old enough not to go back to secondary school or any formal education, but I say, can you form a group of these people, bring them together, train them thoroughly so that it's not, in other words, it's like saying, please, here's a gun, shoot me. I've got a bulletproof, you can't kill me. So in other words, you're saying, as sasol, we are doing everything that we need to do to make sure that everything works. But now, also, we equip you with expert knowledge so that in the future, when you're engaging us, it is from a level of clear understanding. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the comment. I do think we've committed that we're going to have a session, so I definitely, we do commit to have a session with that. But I just want to also comment that our kids is very interested in equality. They live on the Highveld. They live amongst the Escoms and the sasols. They must be the stars understanding equality, and they must be our equality ambassadors going forward. I mean, we bring them up in this community. They must be knowledgeable on this, and we do have a lot of interest. Our kids are really interested in equality. But we commit on that next step to have a session.
Exactly what is the role of stakeholders and participants in these sessions, and do what they say later?
Yes. And I think talk is cheap. I think what we only can do is we can definitely have a separate session and we can take it forward. But we can stand here in front of you and say yes, but what we do from now on will matter. And I think that's the moral of the story.
I believe my colleague Nonzanazi would like to add to the stakeholder question.
Thank you very much. As I have already alluded to what she has just responded to, the importance of our stakeholders in sasol, we take it very serious. Like you stated in your opening statement, Mr. Wilson, that we would like to have mutually beneficial relationships with our stakeholders. We are not the company that goes and says, give us. We also want to share. We've got environmental projects that we sponsor. Maybe when we have time in that small group, we can also show you our offset projects. Also, others are not offset, it's CSI. The third one is bursaries that we give. That is the value that we add to our stakeholders. And we also take the same learners back to come and work for sasol. So that is the value creation that we also make in our relationship. With this small group that you have suggested, we do have a small group that we had a workshop with sometime in January. We are planning to have another workshop before we engage again in December in our next engagement after this one. So we really would like to thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chauke. You've got many things that you could have gone to do. For you to come and sit here, it is passion in sasol's business, and also for your community to plow back. So we do appreciate all these inputs. Every input matters to us. We don't take it lightly. It does matter to us. Thank you very much. We really appreciate your attendance in this session.
Thank you. Then there was a question about the closing down of coal-powered power stations around South Africa. And I might be corrected, but I know that the ones that are closing at the moment is because they've come to their end of life. It is not because of the just transition process that is happening at the moment. But sasol, in particular, as a company, is involved, is part of the approach that the country is taking around just transition. So we are part of the dialogues that are happening nationally and in the provinces. We are part of different green energy committees, as well as there are certain of our processes that we have changed to become greener. So we recently introduced green hydrogen, and we are looking at other opportunities to go greener and to improve some of our processes. But I think what is important is that as a company, we are part of the talks. We are part of, or we are looking for opportunities to influence policy, as you mentioned earlier on. But as a company itself, we've got a roadmap that we are following to look at opportunities to green certain of our areas, certain of our processes, leading up to a point where just transition kicks in if it has to, and then we will take the decision then whether we are shutting down. However, at the moment, I think all the power stations that are still in their circle of life, if you can call it that are still productive, most of them are still continuing. They might limit the production, but all that have closed up to this far have been those that are at the end of their life cycle. But in short, sasol is part of the solution, and obviously we've got employees working here. We need to take into consideration all sides of the coin, and our decisions will be phased. It will not be just a big bang decision. There was another. I think this one is for you. Sasol is not a sole contributor. Can you substantiate that with the estimate, or can you substantiate that with estimates in terms of percentage overlap? I'm not sure if it's a question you can answer now, because it continues to say how much have you, how much have your offsets contributed?
It's a future question. In future. It's a future question.
Yeah, so I think if you want to start looking at the alien data and the different contributions, then you'll need to do source apportionment. So you need to understand what is the contribution of different sources to that specific station. So I don't have the exact concentration of the percentage on a scale from 1 to 100 of how much sasol is contributing. What I can allude to back is the data that's been shared on the ambient level, where you can see, like for particular matter, NOx, I don't think you see it so widely, there's a seasonal trends. Take for instance particular matter, you can see there's seasonal trends. Like Ilse has mentioned that industry is 24/7, 365 times per year, they are emitting basically the same throughout. But the moment you see ambient levels, seasonal, usual trend, you can identify what is the other sources that is being contributing to that. I think what I can also highlight, and it's information that's available in the public domain and it's on the internet, is in any of the applications that we've done in our postponement applications and even for the recent cross-border application, we do modeling. So we do air impact assessments where we then model what is sasol's contributions, emissions contribution to the ambient, and how does that compare to the actual ambient measurements that's been looked at. And the delta on those, you can identify and see what is the contribution of other sources. So that information is also available on all the different pollutants that sasol have applied for previously, and that available information is there. And that is good graphs to also understand what is the contribution from industry in a specific region opposed to the other sources in that region too. But from the top of my head, I can't tell you exactly for this pollutant, it's this, because of the time averaging, that's different. We are looking at and we always compare it against the national ambient air quality standard. So for NOx, you will have 2 limits. You have the daily and annually. SOx, you have 3 limits. Ozone, you have one limit, which is the 8-hour average limit. And then for particular matter, you have PM 2.5 to PM 10, which is also daily and annually. But that information is there. So if you Google sasol postponement application 8R air impact assessment report, it's available to
And I believe that we've covered all the questions asked. I'm looking at the time. We've got 23 minutes before we get to 4 o'clock. So, and we've completed the presentation for the day. So I'm not sure if there's any other points or questions. Yes, sir.
Just a side comment. Some of our residents are now staying closer to the factory than was envisaged when they started building and commissioning these factories. For instance, this whole Silkaatskop area is now housing and things like that. So people are actually staying closer. So the air standards and all other things become more important because the people are staying actually closer to the factory.
We actually noted that as a company, as people are getting closer, we know as a responsible company that there are expectations from the community around that, and I believe that the colleagues, as they work to improve their processes, they would also include such changes in the environment.
Everybody blames heating. Is sasol taking global heating, global warming and all that stuff? Does the sasol take that in consideration when they allow houses to be built like in Silkaatskop? Because the original windrows in the 1957s when the talks started for sasol 2 and 3, that was the first thing that they considered was the windrows and the wind directions. That is, there's a specific reason why the factory was built there and the town was built here. But everything in the nature changed, rainfall changed. The factory was designed on a rainfall figure of, I think it was 780 millimeters. And that's much more now. And far above 800. Does that come into consideration with all these other things? Do you take that into consideration? I would guess so.
Yeah. And maybe it's a good topic that we can discuss in the next forum. Every time there's a nice topic to discuss, and the company definitely got a sustainable outlook on how we tackle that. But the climate change is a massive topic, especially rain, because we see higher rainfall in the factory. And how did the factory respond to that rainfall? So it is a massive topic, and maybe we can include it in the next presentation. I can probably try and get some info now, but it's going to take some time. But we can discuss it maybe next time and and unpack it a bit.
Maybe what I want to say now is not so much relevant, but if you look at the storm water sewer drainage system inside the factory, it was specifically designed on that 720 millimeters per annum, and it's too small.
Well,
so that's impact from the nature.
No, sure, and I think that's a massive topic at the moment. Climate change and how it impacts us. It's a very big topic at the moment, and it's definitely in our future-looking plans. It is concerned.
Last opportunity, questions, comments?
The safety-related discussions, where does that go to? Because you're obviously responsible for the environment, but explosion circles stay as explosion circles. People creep towards the factory and they start living inside the explosion circle, then
I was wondering about that.
Who do you talk to? Not you guys.
Process safety.
Yeah, but there's no, I'm not aware of a process safety forum with the community where you can...
we can ask them questions, and we can ask them to come and share. I'm not sure if they are the explosion circles, but we can convey the message to process safety. We can take it from there, and we can definitely raise it with them.
There's also input from the municipality because they grant the zoning to say that you can build here and the permits and whatever. So it's sort of, we need to tell them where it will be safe.
So
because if I remember correctly, the London circle ended just before the club. And now we've got houses inside the London circle, and if they did not go and put extra bunker walls or something to prevent, those ammonia, bigger ammonia plants from, if they catch fire, to impact town, then the situation is actually dire for the people who have bought property and support. And it should never have been done.
Yeah, well, they destroyed it, didn't they, because of this problem?
Well,
We all say that
originally.
But it's something that we're going to channel through our corporate affairs.
Maybe it's something that we can, I don't know if there should be a joint session between process safety and environment and anything that affects the community.
So this is something that we will take them through our corporate affairs colleague. I mean, we just we air quality, and our mandate is air quality. So we would like to talk to you guys about air quality, but it is something that we will definitely take up there through our corporate affairs colleagues to process safety.
It's just a bit of useless information. It's like this little Checkers papers. Did you know the old Bethel prison was way down there by Charlie 5?
Yeah.
And that was removed because of what Rex just said now. And now look at the housing here in Sakaatskool. They're right on Charlie 1 gate. Did you know?
Thank you very much for that input. I believe that some of the solutions or some of the answers might include or involve other stakeholders except sasol. So especially something like the last topic we spoke about, the housing. Since the permits or permission to do the houses was not a sasol permission, it involved other parties. So I believe when we talk about this, it might have to be all bringing in other stakeholders except the process safety. Because process safety will talk from sasol's side to say this is what we have, but then the other stakeholders involved would have to then give their own side of the story. I think we have covered all our topics that we wanted to cover today. We have given everyone an opportunity to speak, and I'm hoping that we've exhausted all the questions and comments for now. Ilse made a commitment that there will be a smaller team that sits, and I hope that some of the ideas, the questions that you might have forgotten for now, will be brought to the fore when the smaller committee meets. But that does not stop you from engaging with us. I think most of you know Ilse, so you can contact Ilse. We've got a complaints number and an email also that you can talk to Sasol through. So the platforms for consulting, engaging, dialoguing are open even once we finish this session. I am now going to hand over to Ilse to come and do closing remarks.